I'm back doing more DIY. Yes, another DIY on a narrowboat. And this one is replacing flooring. Now, I've just bought some new flooring here. This is 12mm thick. It is a laminate, but it's supposed to be, well, it's damp proof and waterproof, it says, but how that is, I don't know. But obviously, the floor was dry anyway. I've just ripped up, I had carpet tiles over the top of this rather nasty vinyl here. Now, I'm not going to take up the vinyl. I'm going to put the boards on top of the vinyl. That might be controversial, but I think it's a bit more insulation there. So it's all trying to keep the cold coming up from the bottom of the boat. Hence, I've gone for the 12mm boards here, which I also already have around the fire there, which is slightly different. Now, I still haven't. My original plan was to put the boards in lengthways down here because it would be the easiest way to fit them. But because the floor is old and not particularly brilliant, I don't know if the camera's picking up, there's a gap there underneath there. Look, I can put my finger over there, and it allows for quite a bit of movement there where it's undulating across the rather uneven floor. So I'm going to change it around now. I'm going to go the other way around. I'm going to go across the boat. That way, a lot more work, a lot more cutting, but that way it should, rather than do this across the joints, and have a slight bit of flexibility and go around it. Well, that's the plan anyway. So I guess I better get on with it. Right, just measuring across here. That says 18¼ Yes, I have an imperial tape measure, I'm afraid. It's one I brought back from the US with me. And but the locking mechanism is better on this one than the one I bought over here, which is metric. So we've got 18¼ and the width of the tape is width of the tape measure here is 3¼ So if my math is correctly, that makes it 21½ inches across. So I need to cut it at 21½ inches. Now I know that this wasn't square on. You can see it's not. Now I put a frame, and when I put a frame in square there, you can see there's quite a gap by the time it reaches the end of the frame in square here. Well, the board's not that long. The board's going to come to about here. So when I put the board, I'm not going to cut it at that angle. I'm going to cut it square, because afterwards I'm going to put a small skirting across here and it'll cover that up. And I need a little bit of float space anyway for the boards to move. And it's going to be a bit like the skirting I have on here, which is the area I did around the fireplace. So this is the end I'm putting up against this side, and I'm going to use this, taking this as flat. And it's pretty good. I've put the square in there and it's not far off. Once again, I should be putting the skirting across there, so if it's fractionally out, it won't notice. So my 21½ is here. I'm going to put a little pencil mark there. 21½. This is a little bit of a cutting hack here. I'm going to take a piece of masking tape, and on my 21½, roughly in the middle of it, I'm going to put a piece of masking tape across there, roughly square. It doesn't have to be exact because I'm going to square it with a square anyway. So take the 21½. I just made that little tiny little mark so I knew roughly where it was. So here we go, my 21½'s here. I didn't quite get the tape in the right place, but that doesn't really matter. Take my frame square. In fact, I'm not using that one. I'm going to use this one because it drops below, so you know you've got it good and square there. So just pull that down to there. and that's my cut line. So let's go and cut that piece out, and when I remove the tape after cutting it, it will leave a nice clean edge. So I'm now set up outside, got it on the workbench here, and I'm just going to cut that across that line. I'm doing it by hand, by eye, because it doesn't matter, it's not perfect. As I say, it's going to get covered with the skirting. So there it is, first cut. Take the tape off, and we're left with a nice clean edge there. So here we go, first board in. Funny, it feels higher than that one, they're both 12mm. Anyway, I've got a strip to go across the top there. We'll put it square up against this side. As we can see, that there's that runoff gap. I knew that's going to happen, but that's fine. The skirting will cover it. Then the next board will come a little bit longer and do the same. That's no problem at all, because my skirting board's going to cover all that up. So on to the next cut. I'm going to stop filming here for a bit, get some work done, and I'll come back to you when I'm, well, perhaps going around the corner and doing an awkward piece. Well, I've come to the first sort of really awkward bit here. You may notice also I put some aluminium foil down, shiny side up. Hopefully that'll help reflect any heat loss back up into the room. Whether it works or not, I've no idea. Can't do any harm, I don't think, anyway. Cut around this bit here, so I'm going to mark off lost my square. I can't use this, as you know, as a square point because it's not square, so I'm just going to run that up to there. Now that's square there, so we're going to cut there. Turn it around and look across there and gauge that fairly accurately. So there. So first of all, I'm going to lose, obviously that goes up onto there, so we don't lose any of this bit, so that we keep that board complete. It's this bit here we've got to lose. So now I've got to measure that from there to there and bring that back this way and then take that off, but of course that's not quite square either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it square. I have an electric planer, and I can just take the little bit off if required with the planer. And that's the easiest way to do that. First of all, let's see how much that gap is. So it's 63mm. I'm doing this in metric, so 63mm I think. I'm allowing for the lip here as well. I think 62mm because we don't want to be too tight. So it's going to be 62mm. And then of course we've got to come in around here, so it's going to be a little bit less. So it's 62mm to get this distance. I'll just move the board back a bit so I can get to it easier. I've got to get my other square, it's easier. Just going to adjust this. I'll start off with it on 10mm there. On 10 centimetres rather. So it's there. And we want 62. To there. That's too much. Six. 2, right. I'll just measure there then. Oh, I went out straight face, didn't I? Gee whiz. Tell I'm not well. It's at the wrong size. There. And that is, well, we'll make it 20mm because we want to make sure we don't drag in there. It's about 18mm, but obviously I don't want it tight. And then we've got to come back in. There. 12mm. So I'll loosen this and this. So now I've got to go and measure that across, take that out. Well, I think it's coming along quite nicely. It's not perfect, but as I say, I'm going to trim it off so you won't even notice where it's a bit rough at the edges. Otherwise, yeah, it's almost the bedroom area done. I'm glad I went across because it is definitely flat. There's no worry about wobbling. They're good and solid and flat that way. So that is worth the extra work, I believe. Well, I've just been up to Wickes, got a 5-pack of trim. This stuff used to be about £2 a length. 30 quid now for 5 lengths. £6 that odd a piece if you buy it into a G675 or something like that. And it's about £5.95 or something if you buy them in the 5-pack. I've got it in the kitchen and I'm just putting a medium oak stain to it. That's what it's the stain and varnish. I can't do it outside because it's just far too cold out there. It'll never go off. So I've got it inside doing it. So it's in the kitchen because it's the longest sort of area I can lace that out across the cooker here, or the stove if you're in the US, and resting it on various things at each end. So I want to get this done, trimmed off and trimmed out around the bed area, so I put my bed back down for later to sleep. I don't have to take it apart again tomorrow and start all again. So once I've got this stain done, saw it up, get it on there, and I can put my bed back together again. As you can see, this area is done, and my bed goes. And I just want to get it trimmed off. So yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to get cracking, I guess. I haven't actually fixed it in yet. I've just stood it up, so I'm going to trim it off all around this side. I'm going to do this side tonight, so I'll put my bed back down. I haven't worried too much about the corners. I've just buttered them up like that. You can't see it, and I don't have a mitre. I don't have a compound mitre saw or a mitre jig or anything on the boat, so I think it just look even more of a mess. So I try to make a mitre without that. And since you can't really see it there, I'm not too bothered. This corner here, I'm just going to round off with a file and round it into the other one. I think that should just work, just to tidy it up, you know. And the same over here, you know. Has to stop short there because that's the door. I'll be able to open that door up or close it. Yeah, it's a folding door, and there's a handle and all here. There's the handle and all, folding door. The only problem is I've got to take the door off before I do any more flooring and cut a little bit off the bottom of the door. But I've got this bit done here, which is the bedroom area. I should do the side trim over here after I've finished it all, because I'll just do it in one run straight through. Starting to look okay, I think. That's me that matters, I guess. Well, sometimes you just have to make use of the available space. So I've just stained my trim up in here. I've done it in the kitchen. It's one of the longest spaces I could find where I could lay them out, set them up on top of some boxes, and I've just put a couple of coats of stain on them. Far too cold outside to do this today. It's around about freezing, so there was no way it was going to dry properly out there. And I'm not even going out and cutting any more flooring up at the moment, so I thought I'd get on and finish off staining some trim. Well, that's the floor down. I've just been putting things back under. I've just thrown the stool back underneath there, and when I put the table on, I put the escutcheon at the bottom there. I put it slightly, so this is now at an angle. It means my feet now fit behind here, and because the floor is now about half an inch higher than it was before, and the other end of the table hasn't changed its height, it's still kept the table pretty level, having it a little bit of an angle. As I say, my feet now fit behind that, so it's quite good. Not sure if we can see here. I've also put a couple of felt pads on the bottom at each end, so it won't scratch the floor. Otherwise there's that wood onto the flooring, I thought it might scratch it. So a couple of felt pads. No, those just, I think they're glue-on ones, or they might be nail-on ones, I can't remember which I use now, not both, just to stop that from happening. Nice and tight there as well. It sits a lot better than it did before, without anything on the bottom. This is not going to be where the board finishes up, it's going to be around here somewhere, when I put the new kitchen flooring in. I haven't still decided yet. I'd like to continue this flooring right through the kitchen area. You can't get it to clip in properly underneath each side of the doors, the cabinet. So until I make that decision how I'm going to finish it off, I've got just a piece of trim here, which is not going to end up by being here. If it fits in here, I think it does. I think I cut it right size. I could have sworn it fitted just now when I pressed it down here. Oh, it does go in there, look. I don't know what was up with me. Anyway, temporarily, so I don't damage the edge to here for when I join the rest on, or the next piece on anyway, which is going to be definitely one more piece, I'm just putting this little bit of trim down across here. I'll line up where I've drilled the holes. See them there? Oh, there they are. So I'm just going to screw this in here. So this is all temporary, but it'll give a protection to the edge of the laminate flooring. So one there, screw hole there somewhere, there it is. I'm only putting the 2 screws in. We'll say it's only a temporary at the moment. So one there. So that will protect that edge and it stops tripping over it anyway, and stops catching your feet on it and damaging it. Another little job I've got to do, the door in between the bedroom and the dinette, there's a little bolt hole in the bottom, little block on there, so that stops that from swinging around when it's not. So that's the next little job to do. Here's the swinging door, and to keep it back in position, obviously I didn't trim behind the door because it wouldn't fit in here. I did leave the expansion gap, but the door will hide that, so you won't see it. I've just made a little block here, put a hole in it, lined it all up, and I think it all lines up properly. I only drilled tiny little holes, so probably going to be a bit tight putting it in, so I'm putting it in with a drill, freeze. And there was through here somewhere. That's in there. And we shut the door. It just goes the original block here, because it was taller before, wouldn't go underneath here, and I didn't like the block anyway. It was quite ugly, so I've cut out a couple of little bits of hardwood here, or one piece of hardwood. I've done it with that. So I put the screws towards the back of the block and the hole for the bolt towards the front of the block. I haven't got an escutcheon to put in there at the moment. If I get hold of one, I might. I probably won't bother. This door never gets used, so I've used it once since I've been on the boat when I had someone stay, so that's the only time. So that should line up, and that should come back in there, go in there, just like so. We turn it around, and there we go. So as we swing the door back in, it goes over the top of that block, look, it just clears it, and the hole should line up with the bolt. Bolt goes in, and we can just lock it in place just like so. As I say, I haven't bothered to put an discussion around it. It's not going to get used. It's going to sit there like that 99.9% of the time. If it does start to wear a little ring or little oval there, you know what, I'll buy a discussion. I just don't have one to hand to put in there. So that's it for now on the floor. It needs a good sweep, it needs a good wash, but what do you expect when you just put it down and get bits everywhere? So that's my next job, is to sweep the floor or vacuum it and then give it a good mop to get all the dust. You can feed it on it still, some dust. So yeah, that's the next job, is to give it a good clean. And meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and thank you for everybody that supports the channel. And that just leaves me to say, thank you very much for watching. Trevor out.